loud for our headliner tonight, Kimberlli Joy. Okay, thank you so much, Holly Shaw. And again, I'm going to shout her out again because she is legitimately a queen. And you know a queen because when a queen touches your life, you become inspired. Am I right?
Yes.
Storytelling has always been a part of my life. I grew up surrounded by storytellers. My family full of storytellers. And the storytelling queens in my life, there are three of them. The first is my mother. If my mother were a book, you'd find her in a bookstore in the romance section. And if my grandmother were a book, she'd be in the spiritual section, or she could be in the Bible, the book of Minnie Lou. And her story would be fantastic because she gave birth to the most prolific storyteller in our family, Alice Walker. Woo! You heard of her?
Yeah.
Oh. So Alice Walker is my dad's youngest sister and my aunt. I call her Auntie.
Yeah.
Nobody else can do that though.
Oh, okay.
If you call Alice Walker Auntie, you'll get a verbal beatdown. And so she wrote The Color Purple. That's what she's written many books, but she's known best for The Color Purple. And in 1983, The Color Purple won a Pulitzer Prize. And then in 85 became a movie. And our whole Boston family went to see the movie together when it opened. And we stayed to the very end. And when all the credits rolled up, the very last credit was a movie based on the novel, The Color Purple by Alice Walker. And our family applauded as loud as we could. I mean, if other people were in the theater, they probably would have called the police on us. And I looked over to my left, and I saw my dad sitting there, and a tear just kind of trickled down his face, because she was his love. And in 1985, she brought Oprah Winfrey to the world.
Yes.
And Dad and I bonded over Oprah by watching her shows all the time together. And then in 95, unfortunately my dad passed. And I used Oprah Winfrey to get through it. So I made sure I recorded all of her shows, and I sat and I watched. I went to the Oprah Winfrey University, and I learned how to be my best self. And I learned how to get through heartache. And I actually opened a gym, a 3,000 square foot gym for homeless women and parenting and pregnant teens, because I was inspired by her. It's like lean in to the things of life. Thank you for that. And in 2005, The Color Purple became a play. And my very generous aunt invited the family, sponsored us all, to go to New York and join her for opening night. And she also gave us money to buy clothing. And I went out and bought a gown, and I made sure it had a plunging neckline. And that I was snatched at the waist. And when we got dressed and go to the play, my mother looked at my cleavage. Looked at me and said, "Your cleavage has a zip code of its own." And I know she said that to kind of give dog whistle, pull it in a little bit, but to me I was like, nailed it. Because I knew that night I was gonna meet a lot of different people, but I was there for one reason. Aside from seeing the play, I was there to meet Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
And so I was also ready for my red carpet moment, Who are you wearing? And we didn't have that moment, though. They just shoved us into the theater. And when I walked into the theater, we were surrounded by stars. I'm going to drop a little bit of some names. So I saw Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld and their wives. Quincy Jones was sitting right behind us. We saw Sidney Poitier and Naomi Campbell, and just Gloria Steinem, everybody was there. Just every person under the sun that's ever did anything in entertainment was there. Stevie Wonder was in the front seat, second row. And my aunt was like, my Aunt Eva, now why they put Stevie in the second row?
Right. That's hilarious.
And when the play ended, seeing our family up there, and it was like seeing our family because my aunt's story was very much her own. She's a brilliant writer, and she told this brilliant story of a woman's triumph, right? From being abused to just standing in her power.
Yeah.
But we saw little drops and little Easter eggs of stories that we grew up hearing throughout our lives, just kind of woven in and out of the story. So it felt like our flesh and bones, our ancestors in flesh and bone were on that stage, sharing with us their truth, their history. Amazing. So we floated from the theater
Yeah.
to the after party. And the after party was in the New York Public Library. Very grand. If you've never been there, it's very grand. And when we walked in, it was like one short day in the Emerald City, except it was all purple. The stars, it's like if you took the NAACP awards and the Golden Globes and you threw them together. I looked up and there was Tyler Perry. I looked over and there was Felicia Rashad.
Wow.
Angela Bassett and her husband are over there. But none of that mattered because I only wanted to see Oprah Winfrey. And my family was a little pensive, like they came in, they sat down, they just sat in one space. And for me, I felt like I was in my tribe. See, my head at that point was so far up my ass that my own fart smelled good. I knew when I met Oprah Winfrey, we were going to chop it up. We were going to get together because she was my best friend and she just needed to know that I was her best friend. That's all. And so I walked around and I looked and finally I learned that the real party was upstairs on the very top floor. And there was this very long table, very regal table. And there was Auntie sitting in the middle of the table. So I went and I said hi, I said hello to her. And she is a introvert. Even though she's this very bold presence in the world, she's a full introvert. So she was kind of timid, and there was Spike Lee standing in line to talk to her, and Bruce Willis, and Katie Seagal, and Paul Rubin, who I kind of fangirled for, despite his little incident. I just love Pee Wee Herman. And then, and after I went and said hello to her and made sure that, she saw me, we hugged. I really wanted to just give her space because she looked like she needed it. I thought, okay, now I'm gonna find Oprah. So I looked around, I couldn't find her, I couldn't see her anywhere. I knew she was there because I saw Sidney Poitier right over there.
Oh my God.
And I know. And then there is Naomi Campbell right there. And then I saw Gail's behind. I don't know how I knew it was Gail's ass, but it was Gail's ass. And then I looked to my left, and there was this energy standing very tall. And I looked over, and it was Stedman.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yes, girl. And I looked over at Stedman, and I looked at his line of sight. Spotted Oprah. So I went and stood next to Stedman, and I just stood nice and calm. Oprah was talking to these two little blonde girls, who, by the way, were just chatting it up with her, like no problem. I was thinking, like, do they even know who she is? She's Oprah Winfrey. They just, and she was, and she's fully present, loving, showing them love, showing them presence. And I'm standing there wringing my hands, and I said, okay, this is my moment. I'm gonna talk to Oprah. Okay, what are you gonna say? Okay. Just be cool. You and Oprah are cool. You all are cool. This is all internal conversation. And at least I think it was. and you're gonna tell her, you're gonna start with gratitude. Thank her for everything. Right? And then you're going to tell her how you and your dad bonded even more over her, and how she reminds you of your grandmother, and how much you love her, and how you're living your best life, and the dreams and the things that you started because of her, and you're going to just give her all kinds of accolades for everything she's done, and then she's going to ask you questions, and eventually she'll call over her assistant, and you'll exchange numbers, and then you'll exchange information, and then you'll become the friends that you know you're going to be. You got this. You got this, Kim. I got this. And then I saw her look up at Stedman, and I think Stedman probably we got this kook over here, and I thought I was being cool, but I have to tell you, self-awareness wasn't really a thing for me those days, so I'm not quite sure. And then finally she sent the girls away. And it was my time. This is my moment. And I could feel my legs as I kind of walked toward her. I could feel them shaking. And then I walked right up to her. And I looked at her dead in her eyes. And she put her hands right on my shoulder. And I opened my mouth and said, Oprah. And then my father and my grandmother in the full circle. And then she finally, she calmed me down. She said, I know, baby. I know. And then it was, and then she said, now who are you? And I said, well, I'm Alice's niece. And she said, okay, now who's your daddy? And I said, no, my father passed, and then I finally just kind of got it together. I got it together, and I got to tell her some very basic things. It didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to. And she was very fine, very sweet, and she hugged me. She hugged me 3 times. She kind of but in that Oprah way, I don't know if you've ever seen, but Oprah keeps a barrier when she hugs people. She didn't not the way I want. I wanted her to take up residence in my zip code, and she just kept it. She kept it at a great distance. And this woman, this queen, made a point of just making sure I was okay before she sent me off. You okay now? You good? Yeah, okay. And I walked away from her, and I got myself together. I could not feel my legs.
Oh, yeah.
I got myself together, and I walked down the stairs. I had to hold the banister so I wouldn't fall. And my family was all down, just still sitting around. I don't know what they were waiting for, just sitting there. And I walked up to them, and I was like, I just met Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, we were chopping it up. Her assistant has my information, and we're going to, perhaps do something later together. Yeah, she hugged me 3 times. That was the only part of the story that was true. But I was so lit up from that point on that later that night when we were leaving, the cousins and the family were leaving. There were 12 of us, and we were all trying to figure out how we were going to get back to our hotel. Should we split cabs and whatnot? And there were a bank of limousines down waiting for the important people. While they were trying to figure out the whole cab situation, I walked down to the limousines and I said, I think you're waiting for us. And he said, who are you? And I was like, I'm Kimberlli Walker. And he said, okay, get in. and my cousins and my siblings and I all scooted in, and I silently thanked my cleavage. Thank you.
Kimberlli Joy, everyone. I like that. It's proof that it's not what happened, it's how you tell the story.
That's right.
So that's our show. I just want to give it up and